Good evening to everyone. Thank you all so much for attending our resume writing and job search webinar workshop. And this is brought to you by Dime Community Bank. Dime strives to be a robust community-focused bank. And why does that matter? Because community banks offer something very special to the local economy and the character of the neighborhoods they serve. They aren't small, they're local. This means that the money that circulates through banks like Dime stays local, having a power effect on the community. They don't just talk about community involvement, they live it. We are incredibly thankful for Dime Community Bank and look forward to gaining some valuable insight tonight. My name is Kendra Dunstan. I'm the Development External Affairs Coordinator here at Brooklyn A. And Brooklyn A believes all New Yorkers should have equal access to legal services to seek justice, make their voices heard, and overcome systemic racism and oppression. Established in 1968, the War on Poverty, Brooklyn A believes attorneys have a critical role to play in combating poverty, inequity, and racism. Our civil legal services and organizing efforts and educational resources assist our clients and their communities in defending and mobilizing against harassment, displacement, and gentrification and asserting their rights. Tonight's program is brought to you from our Domestic Violence Unit. Our senior staff attorney will be on in a few to speak to you more about the work that they do. But the Domestic Violence Unit is a part of our Consumer and Economic Advocacy Program, or CEA, where they prevent foreclosures and defend against predatory lending. They resolve tax issues with the IRS for low-income taxpayers and strive to ensure that vulnerable groups have strong safeguards in place to help them build and maintain assets throughout their financial lives. And I'm just going to take a moment to share my screen. I apologize. Alrighty, we do have two other practice areas. And the first one is a preserving affordable housing program. And we work on cases around eviction prevention, anti-harassment, fair housing claims, repairs and essential services, and tenant organizing. And then we also have the Community Economic Development Program, or CED, where we assist small businesses with commercial lease matters. We provide advice on laws and options, negotiate rent and arrears, and commercial tenant harassment. We also assist nonprofits with incorporation and startup services. So with that, I do want to introduce our senior staff attorney of the Domestic Violence Unit, Daniela Adeo. Daniela has been with us since 2023. And prior to working at Brooklyn A, she worked at the Kings County District Attorney's Office in the Domestic Violence Bureau, where she was in charge of prosecuting domestic violence cases. Currently, Daniela leads a two-person team that is comprised of an attorney and a social worker. The two of them handles every single domestic violence case that comes in. And now I want to say thank you for all of your work. And I would like to turn it over to you for you to be able to talk a little bit more about the work we do.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. It is my pleasure to be here and talk a little bit about our domestic violence unit here in BKA, Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A. So as Kendra mentioned, we assist low-income individuals, people who, could not otherwise afford an attorney in legal matters, in family court, as well as Supreme Court in matrimonial cases. So in family court, we assist individuals with custody and visitation. I think do we have a PowerPoint for that, Kendra?
You don't see it here? Yeah. Are you able to see my screen?
No.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Diane, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it. Maybe Daniela has a setting that she has to change.
I can see it as well.
No problem. I'm gonna send it to you in the chat, okay?
Okay, well, okay, so so we represent individuals in family court and Supreme Court. In family court, we do custody visitation cases, we do child support and spousal support cases. We secure orders of protections for those who feel they are in danger for their safety. And that's what I do as the attorney, right? So I work on that side, the legal matter side. Felicia, our social worker, she provides the emotional support and as well as social services, information and resources for people who are in need. That could be, she helps with emergency placement when you are in danger of domestic violence. She provides information on applying public assistance and child support and everything through HRAs. There's many moving pieces when it comes to family matters, right? Not just the legal side, but also the social side, socioeconomic side as well, and needs of the family in terms of, public assistance, et cetera. So both of us together, we try to provide a holistic approach, to your cases, so you can so the client can, be fully represented inside and outside of the courtroom and address other issues that are not just legal. Or how we take our cases, essentially, we take walk-ins, we take people who email us. Actually, on the PowerPoint, if you see there is our email address. So, just whoever wants to inquire about services, we will, speak with them. We will call back in 1 to 2 business days. A lot of our clients are referred by the Family Justice Center, who, and essentially, who works with the Kings County District Attorney's Office. We are also partnered with the Family Justice Center. So just as much as they are partnered with the Kings District Attorney's Office. So any victims of a domestic violence crime that needs family needs family court matters, help with family court matters, they are referred to FJC, who then in turn refers them to us and other organizations that also provide the type of help we provide, support we provide. So we do an intake. Obviously, there's an income eligibility, but ultimately we are here to help people who need representation that they otherwise cannot afford in their family matters. Have I forgot anything, Kendra?
No, I think you covered it all. Thank you so much, Daniela. I appreciate you so much. As you know, the work that you do is just invaluable, and so valuable to Brooklyn A and all of our neighbors and the individuals that we serve here. And I recommend, if you or anyone who has experienced this issue revolving or around domestic violence, reach out to us. If we are not able to assist, we will find resources and provide you with that. Thank you, Daniela, for your time tonight.
No problem. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And so I would love to introduce our amazing presenters tonight. Coming from Dime Community Bank, we have Robin and Duran, and she has been a human resources professional for more than 25 years. She is currently Senior Vice President, Director of Talent Acquisition of Dime Community Bank. Robin came to Dime in 2017 as Assistant Vice President, Human Resources, and created 21st Century Recruitment and Onboarding functions for Dime. She then moved into the role of Vice President, Recruitment and Engagement, where she worked to create the best employee experience for all new hires and current employees. She has been Director of Talent Acquisition since 2021, first as Vice President, then First Vice President, and since 2023, Senior Vice President. Prior to her career in banking, she was in agriculture for almost 20 years. She's bilingual in English and Spanish. Thank you so much, Robin, for joining us this evening.
I'm so happy to hear.
Yes, thank you. We also have Diane Sidhu, who will be our chat master this evening. Diane is currently Vice President and Branch Manager of the Oceanside and Cedarhurst branches of Dime Community Bank for the past 6 years. Diane is a veteran banker since 1985 and has worked as a branch manager, relationship manager, and business banker for multiple financial institutions throughout the years. She is passionate about working with women to further women-focused causes and is thrilled to be able to do so as co-chair of the Dime Women's Affinity Group, rightly called Wonder Women of Dime. I thank you both. Yes. Our Wonder Women. I thank you both for making time in your busy schedules to lend your knowledge and expertise to our family tonight. We are incredibly thankful here at Brooklyn A to have you and have you host and present this information to our viewers. We are almost ready to get started. Before I do want to let everyone know that you will be able to ask your questions throughout the entire presentation. Feel free to enter your questions in the chat at any point. Diane, who will be monitoring the chat, will be able to read them when we get a break in the presentation. You also have the option of asking your questions directly by just hitting that little hand raise feature. When you do that, we will be able to unmute you and you can ask Robin and Diane your questions directly. And at the end, we will open up the floor to any more questions. And then one last thing, Diane and Robin has been so gracious to be able to offer the first 10 individuals who submit their resume to info@bka.org will receive a complimentary resume review. And so hopefully you can take some of the information you learned tonight and put that into your resume and then give you some real world feedback on those. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Robin.
Okay. So you have to stop sharing yours and then perfect. Okay. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to get started. Let's get right into this. Remember, the questions are very important. Think about what's important to you when it comes to resume writing and goal setting, and we can go right from there. Okay, so tonight we'll be going over career goals, resume types, job search, and resume writing. So what's very important, and as for people who know me, know that the most important thing is to always know your value. Know what's important to you. So define your goals, be yourself, but always be prepared. Okay. So are you prepared? So what I would recommend is if you're going to start looking for a job at this time, especially the way everything is online now, I would set up a separate email for your job search. And I wouldn't, if you're looking for privacy features or privacy factors, I wouldn't use your name or anything related to your birth date. I would pick something random, and then I would create, you can get free emails set up with Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, okay? And you can get your email set up because that's going to be very important. If you're looking for a job, you're always going to need a way for employers to be able to get in contact with you. So we usually do things now through email or through voicemail. So that's another thing. If you want to keep your phone set up separately, you may want to consider getting a separate phone number. And I believe that I think that Kendra we can also look into ways for people to set up separate numbers that they can get if they want to do something for their job search. But you want to set up some type of voicemail so that if someone is going to call you about a job, they can leave you a message. And you want to make sure that you leave a clear and concise greeting. If you want to keep it on the private side, you can use your first initial and your last name. Okay. And then that's where you would have maybe all of the employers that are helping you find a job leave the messages for you there if they want to get in contact with you, because that's very important. We do find that a lot of people don't get called back by companies because their voicemail may be full. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. The new normal. So what's very important now is because of a lot of things have become online, and obviously, as you're seeing just from this presentation now, we're doing things in this new world of Zoom. And we really started heavily into this when we went through the COVID pandemic. So a lot of companies now do not interview people in person, which, especially if you're looking for a little privacy, that may make you feel more comfortable. So a lot of videos now are being conducted via Zoom, or another option is Microsoft Teams. It's just another form of being able to do things online. So what you want to make sure, and what I tell people is, obviously we don't have studios in our homes. If you want to set up something simple, what you could do is you could take a sheet or a towel and you could put that behind you to block out anything that you have around you. As you can see my window and you can see my picture and you can see things on my walls. If you didn't want to do that, if I wanted to block that out in order to have a video interview, I could just put a sheet or a towel behind me so I could have some privacy and have a very neutral background. You want to make sure you have some quiet. If you're going to do an interview on video, you want to make sure that everything works before you start your video. And obviously, I always say, if you're not good at electronics, maybe you have somebody in your circle, in your support system who can help you. That's very important as well. And you could do a test interview with them to make sure that everything's working. And see what I said? Make sure that the space behind you is appropriate for an interview. Keep in mind what the interviewer can see. That's why I always recommend a sheet or a towel. It blocks the background and you don't have to worry what's behind you. Flexibility right now in the job search. First of all, breathing in and out when you do a job search, to me, is actually more important than flexibility. You want to know that you're just of a clear head when you could sit down and think about looking for a job. Keep in mind now that jobs have 3 offers. You can be on site, which means on premises. You can be hybrid, which is a combination. You may work a few days in an office or in a location, and they may have you work some days at home, or purely remote, which means when a job is remote, it means that you will not have to come in to a physical location. So if you look for a job and they say it's remote, but then tell you have to come in once a week, understand that that is not a remote job. And a lot of companies are not very clear about what they want. So if you need remote, if you need to be at home, make sure you get your questions answered from the place that you are applying to. Okay, see what works for you based on your comfort level, your support system, if you have children, when you can have people watch your children, or if you're going to need to be at home just because of your children, if you have very young children, if they're in school and you can do something that's maybe hybrid, you can work your hours, maybe you get something part-time. It's really going to be depending on what works for your life and what when you think about your career goals and what it is that you're looking for. Do you want to work full-time or do you want to work part-time? That's what you want to be clear about, because you want to be able to ask an employer, if this is a part-time role, how many hours will you be expecting me to come in or to work from home? Okay, then you want to make sure, do you have the necessary tools to work from home regularly or even a few days? Do you have a private space? If you were working, let's say, a customer service or a customer representative, maybe in a call center environment, they are going to require you to have some sort of private space because you may be dealing with work that is confidential, or you may be dealing with customer information, and they're not going to want you to be in a shared space. How are we doing so far? Any questions? Anything? Okay.
No questions so far, Robin.
Okay, looking a little bit at the job search. Before you even tackle your job search, go in a little bit with a clear picture. Set easy goals for yourself. What does that mean? Well, tomorrow I'm not going to walk out and say I want to climb the mountain. Maybe today I'll just take a few steps. So you want to keep your goals smaller and easier to achieve. So every day you can feel a little sense of accomplishment. So the good news now is, because so much is online, and keep in mind that our public libraries are a great space to help look for a job. They have a lot of free resources. You can use their computers. And so if there's anything that you can't do at home, most public libraries will allow you to use their resources. And they also have great librarians who can help you with some questions and answers when it comes to job search. So the first thing you're going to need to know is most employers will either have their own company career site, which is where they post all their open roles, both part-time and full-time, remote, hybrid, or on-site, or a lot of companies use job boards. These are just other places where they can put their jobs that they have available so that they can get more people looking at them. It helps them get a lot of reach. So maybe not everybody's going to come to Dime Community Bank's career site, but if I put my job on Indeed, which has a viewing population of millions, a lot more people will see my jobs. And the good news is that good job boards will have a lot of the information that you need. And also what's very important to know is in New York State right now, companies are required to put the salaries in some sort of range form on their job descriptions. So when you see a posting for a role in New York City or New York State, you should see the hourly amount. It may say paying $12 an hour up to $18 an hour. Okay. And if it's a role that's in New York State, anywhere in New York State, anywhere in New York City, you should see that salary amount. It may be in a salaried form or it may be in an hourly form. The difference between $18 an hour or let's say $40,000 annually. Okay, so you want to make sure you see that. And you always want to make sure to do a little research to make sure that the roles that you're looking to apply to are real ones. That's why it's always good to use one of these job boards. Okay, you have Career Builder, Glassdoor, Google, Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, Simply Hired, ZipRecruiter. What these places usually do is they go to a company's career site where we have our jobs posted and they do what's called scraping. They take our jobs off of our site and they put it on their site so they don't have to pay us any money. So that's an interesting way. But as I said, what it does, it gives a bigger reach. Okay. So if you want to always think about what it is you want to do, you can go, let's use Indeed. You can go to www.indeed.com, put in, oh, I don't know, cook assistant, and you can just do a search. And what Indeed will do is it'll pull up for you all places that have cook assistants, and you can narrow it down by part-time, full-time. You can narrow it down by location. So you can get very specific. These job boards are very, very helpful. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, we want to make sure that anybody on this call who is looking for a job thinks first of their privacy, what information they want to be shared and what information they want to keep private. Okay. And so what you want to make sure is that any place where you go to look for a job, where they're going to ask for you to set up some sort of profile about yourself, you want to make sure that you look at the privacy settings. And you're only going to want to put what you feel comfortable putting up on those profiles. Okay, that's why also, excuse me, I think it's very important that you have a separate email address for your work search. And if they ask for an address, I would recommend that you don't put your address. Okay, just remember to always look at the privacy sites on any of these job boards to make sure you're only putting what you want to do. And if you have any questions about that, those are really important ones. You usually can even ask inside of the job boards the questions you have about privacy. But you want to make sure you only share the information you feel comfortable sharing. That includes photos. Okay? So, as we talked about, define your job goals, and use keywords to search. So it's always easier when you try to be a little bit more specific when you're looking for a job on a job board. You could say things like cashier. You could say things like administrative assistant. You could say things like nurse's assistant, or things like that, to get more and more closer to what it is you're looking for. Or you could put generic terms if you're not really sure what you're looking for. The best time to apply for a job is within the first 48 hours after it's posted. Let the job board do the heavy lifting. If that's not possible, don't worry about things like that. You're just keep an eye on what your goals are and stay with that. Okay. If and remember, we're always going to go back to your privacy and your level of comfort. You can join some social media groups that are professional groups. These are different than the Facebooks. These are different than the Instagrams. These are different than, the TikToks. These are ones that have to do with professionals. LinkedIn is a very common professional social media site, which a lot of employers use to find people who to hire, and vice versa. People go on there to look for jobs. Glassdoor is a very big professional one. But remember, these are not going to be as private. You want to always measure this against your comfort level. Okay. You can also follow, if there's a company that you're interested in, you can look at its social media profile. For example, Dime Community Bank has a page on Instagram. It has a page on Facebook, and I'm using my own company because that's a good way to explain this. And you can follow them, and people who are in the industry you may be interested in. If you were interested in banking, there's a lot of people who are in the banking field that are experts that they now call influencers, and you could follow them and see what they talk about to also help you look for jobs. Obviously, you always want to leverage your connections, your networks, and your referrals up to your comfort level. And I'm always going to be explaining that and stressing that. Okay. This is a very important time for you when you're looking for a job. Think of where you are. Do you need to sharpen your computer skills? Do you need to learn computer skills? The basic skills, which are Microsoft Word, which is the way that you would just basically type a simple document on a computer. Most companies will ask for that as a minimum. Depends on what the role is, but they're going to usually ask for a minimum level of Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel skills. If you don't have any skills, any computer skills, you can also find places that will offer, as I said, libraries are great resources for job seekers. Many of the items are free. They can also point you in the direction of some free computer courses, because I would say for any job search, you should have that as a basic. If you're going to be a cook's assistant, you might not need a computer skill, but it will never hurt for you to have that. Think about where you can sharpen what you do. Okay. What I also say is, don't get too caught up in what you don't have. Think about what you do possess. If you're good, very good with people, then you can say you're a good people person. So jobs that have people contact may be something that you can do. If you're a very good speaker, then there are roles you can do when you can use your speaking skills. So don't get too hung up with what you can't do. Focus on the things that you can do, and the things you can do well. And then if you can take courses, if you can get some sort of certification, obviously those may have more of a dollar amount attached to them. Something that I would always encourage. I would also always go to wherever you can find free resources. Make sure that they are real resources, okay, if they're free, because there's, when you see free things advertised now with social media, make sure that it is real. That is very important. Okay. Navigating a job site. So we do an Indeed first. What we're going to do is We're not going to open up the video because we don't have that kind of time. And I want to make sure if anybody has questions, we have time to answer them. But you can find online ways to become familiar with any kind of job board. Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn. There are free videos that you can use. YouTube is very good to find step-by-step walkthroughs on how to navigate a job board. Don't let the job board intimidate you. You have a lot of online resources now where you can learn kind of the step-by-step to maneuver or to navigate a job board. Take advantage of that so that you feel as comfortable and as powerful inside as possible before you start your job search. Give yourself as many tools of confidence and clarity as you can before you get started. Okay. Resume writing. So what I would say is the good news is that you have things like Google, Yahoo, um, uh, Microsoft. I mean, there's just a million places now where you can find free resume templates. And if you have never written a resume before, they have so many different templates to help you with different types of resumes. So all you have to do is plug in your information. You don't have to sit and say, oh my goodness, I don't know the first thing about writing a resume. There are plenty of online templates, which is basically, for those who don't know what a template is, it's online versions of basically just a ABC type of resume where you can just plug in your information and it gives you step-by-step instructions. Take advantage of those. As I said, take advantage of libraries and librarians for those free resources on how to put together a resume, because you will need some, what I call a calling card. That's something, whether you apply for a job in person, meaning walking into a retail store and asking them if they have any online, any open jobs and handing someone a resume, or you have to go online and attach or download your resume, you're going to need some sort of resume. Anybody who's fairly new in their careers or hasn't worked a lot does not need anything more than 1 page. If anybody tells you to write a resume that's longer than a page, if you haven't worked more than a couple of years, they're not telling you the truth. And they just want you to do a lot of extra work. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it concise, keep it in order. So here we have 3 different resumes that you can have. If you have a lot of experience, you can put these, what's called a chronological resume, which is where you put it in the order of your most recent job down to your oldest job. And I recommend not putting jobs that are older than 10 years. Okay. Also, what we have is there's a lot of employers, unfortunately, that do what's called ageism. And a lot of times, if they see somebody puts 30 years of work experience, they can guess how old you are, and they may make decisions that are not in your favor. So keep your things kind of precise. Don't add any more information than you don't have to. Then we can go to the second resume, functional resume. This is for people with changes in their career. Maybe you did some sort of home care. Maybe you were a home care attendant, and then you worked maybe in a restaurant as a cashier. So those are changes in your resume. Or maybe you had to stop for various personal reasons. That's a good functional resume. We also have a combination resume, which will be a little bit of a chronological one and a functional one. And then what this does is, and that's why we're going to share this presentation, it kind of explains to you out what each resume is. What I would always recommend is the first thing an employer should see is the thing you've done most recently. And if that thing that you've done most recently is 5 years ago, I would play it up. And maybe even in the 5 years since you've been in the last formal job, maybe you did some great babysitting, which is you had to be responsible for someone. Maybe you had a part-time job. Maybe you had a job that didn't pay anything. All experience is good experience. Don't throw anything out. It makes you the person you are today. Remember that. Okay. And then we give an example here of what a chronological resume format may look like. You can even simplify this. If you don't have all this kind of information, don't get caught up in that. You may have only had 2 jobs. You may have had 8 jobs. So what I would say is anything that you've done for at least 3 months, if you've been paid, is something you should add to a resume. Then we have a functional resume, which is if you've had gaps in your employment history for whatever reason. We're not here to judge in any way, shape, or form, or if you're changing careers, or if you didn't have enough experience in any one industry or what profession you were setting out to do, and you're going to make a change. And then here's an example of that, but we will be sharing this presentation with anybody who's on the call. So you don't have to write things down. You don't have to take photos. You don't have to rush to think of remembering all this. This will all be shared with you. And then a combination resume, as we said, maybe you've only been looking for a job. Maybe you've only been out in the job world for short amounts of time. So you don't really have a lot of things to share. Maybe you've only had a few employers. Maybe you've been with one. Maybe you were a nanny and maybe you were with one family for 5 years, so that you don't have a lot of employers, or you're changing careers, but you don't have any gaps. A combination resume will help. And here's an example of a combination resume. What's very important in your resume is to always think of the job you want. So you're going to have a basic resume, and then you may tailor it a little bit or make it a little bit more specific for a particular job that you want. So, for example, if you're looking for a role as a cook's assistant, you may want to tailor your resume for things that you've done in your past, whether it's volunteer, whether it's paid, whether it's you helped someone, maybe someone in your circle with a business they've started that has to do with cooking or a kitchen or a restaurant or chefing, that you can play up in your summary. You always want to think about the job you want when you put together your resume, and that you should make it a little bit more specific to that particular job that you're looking for. So the summary section basically explains to a recruiter or a company what value you could bring to them in 3 to 4 lines. Not basically what you did before, but it's almost as if you're doing a little bit of a sell. What can I offer this company I'm applying to help them get rid of this need that they have? So that's the sell you're making in your summary explanation. And then you always want to use some words like experience in, strengths include, I was recognized for, very strong in, some of my key skills may include, and then we give an example of what it looks like in the summary section. Okay, your experience section. So what employers, as we said, usually like to see is your most recent work first, or your most recent volunteerism first, or your most recent school assignment that you were doing first, things that are a little bit more current and relevant to what you're applying for. If you finished that job, make sure you're talking about the past. If you're currently doing something now, but you're looking for a new job, make sure that you're talking in the present. Okay. Don't write long paragraphs, write short bullet point statements. Okay. And you don't need to list every position or job you've had. Remember what we said. If you did something paid, it should be at least 3 months. That could be you worked in the supermarket, you helped with checkout, you did it for a few months. That works fine. Okay. Your skills section. Those are the skills that you can bring to someone, remember, to help them fulfill a need that they have. That's when you apply for a job. You're saying to an employer, I can help fulfill this need you have by these following skills. And you're going to show those skills. But never forget soft skills. Soft skills are the things that may not be a computer skill. It may not be a certification. It may not be that you have been a carpenter before, or you were an electrician before. It's things that, good listener, leadership, knowing how to manage people. You're a good problem solver. You have good multitasking. You're able to do more than one thing at once very clearly. You work well under pressure. You work well with people. You have good customer service skills. Don't forget that soft skill piece. Other things, as I talked about, anything where you volunteered, any kind of certification, anything where someone talked about something you did really well. Maybe they'd even write some sort of recommendation for you. Maybe you got some sort of citation or some honor for something that you did. So now we are going to go on to our question and answer portion. If you have any questions, you can certainly forward the questions in the chat. You can give them to Diane, who's coordinating, or if you're just somebody who doesn't feel comfortable speaking, you can always share them with Kindra, and Kindra is also going to send us some of your questions if you don't feel comfortable doing it in a group setting. The only reason why we encourage some questions at the end of this presentation is your question may be the question that someone else has. And if more than one person has that similar question, it would be nice for everybody to see the answer, but no pressure. Any questions?
So far, no takers.
Okay.
So why don't we give it a few minutes?
Okay.
And let everybody put their thinking caps on and maybe refresh what they've heard about in your presentation, Robin, and maybe they'll think of something that can be the smallest of questions or concerns. And no question is too insignificant or too silly to ask. This is a very safe, comfortable space. So feel free to ask. And if you truly have no questions, well, then you are the greatest group ever, I must say.
We just want to make sure everybody felt comfortable.
Of course. And, if you don't mind, Robin, one thing I do want to go double back to when you were talking about resources, having a separate email set up, another option for a phone number, an option for people to take advantage of is through Google. And Greg reminded me of this. Google Voice is a free phone service that's tied to your Gmail account. So it allows you to have a second phone number that you can dedicate for business or for interview purposes.
And was it called Google Voice?
It's called Google Voice. And you can actually register for a free phone number. There's no cost to that. It doesn't have to be linked to your AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon account.
And really quick, Suzette has her hand raised, and I'm sorry to interrupt there, because I think that's really important to know. Google Voice. Thank you, Robin, for that information. I'm going to
We do have a
unmuted you,
question.
Suzette.
We do have a question from, you said to create a new email. Can it be a general email such as resume@gmail.com? I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend that it be at least something. It can be C, and it doesn't, I mean, it could be cgroceries@gmail.com. I just wouldn't recommend, if you're looking for privacy, to use your name in any form that someone could see that that's your name. If you're not comfortable sharing your name, I wouldn't use anything related to birth dates, especially your own, because that could also be telling. Just something very generic. You can maybe say something like, you don't want it to be too generic, because then the employer may not think that it's a real email address. That's why we say not to be too generic. Maybe you say, let's say your name is, I'm going to use something simple, Diane Duell, for example. So you could say something like houseware@gmail.com. You could put another word in there so someone just couldn't associate that with your first name and your last name. But I wouldn't make it too generic, because obviously what we have to be very aware of now is there's a lot of fakes, and people are very aware of that. There's a lot of fakes that are actually applying to jobs that are not real people. And what they're doing is they're just trying to get and infiltrate a company and maybe take down their computer services or their computer systems. So you don't want to make it too generic. But I saw that's is that Suzette who has her hand up? Okay, we'd love to have her
Yes.
question.
You're unmuted, Suzette.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hi, Suzette.
I just recently retired after working for 20 years. And my question is, on my resume, should I just put that one job or should I also put the part-time job I've had during that time as well?
So you've retired from one place where you were for 20 years
Correct.
and during that 20 years you also had a part-time job, or you're doing
Yes.
it now?
No, I had a part-time job during that time.
I mean, if it gives you extra skills, of course you can share that as well. I would obviously though make the 20-year role, was that a full-time role?
Yes, it was.
I would kind of use that as your core, but if you did something else that gave you experience, it also shows a lot about you, Suzette, as somebody who was able to manage a long time career and also hold a part-time job. So it says even more about what you're capable of. So if you were looking for to send your resume out and someone needed somebody who was a multitasker, by showing what you did during your 20 years and your part-time role shows that about you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And congratulations on your retirement.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations. A free space here, a very comfortable, safe space. And maybe after we share the presentation with the members of with the people who got a chance to be on this webinar tonight, maybe they'll have more questions and they can send them to you, Kendra, and we'll definitely answer them.
Absolutely. I'm going to just drop in our email address here where you can ask questions. And this will also be the place where, if you like, you can send over your resume and Robin and Diane will be able to take a look at it and give you some personalized advice there.
We look forward to providing whatever help we can.
Thank you.
And
Thank-
again, don't be shy. If you have any questions, feel free. Suzette asked some great questions there, and I think that was helpful information Robin provided her with. So jump on in. Okay, no more questions at this time, Robin and Kendra.
Oh, you know what, Maribel, I'm sorry, Mabel has
Oh.
raised her hand. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hi, so I'm an occupational therapist by profession, but I've been out of work on medical leave already since 2018. So at this point, I'm not looking to go back into my work because I'm out on medical leave without pay. But if I wanted to do, let's say, consultation work, how would I kind of reframe my resume is all about occupational therapy in mental health, but I want to kind of reframe that to do more consultation work at this time if I decide to retire. Like now, November, I'll be 65. So if I decide to retire, I'd like to do something different. So I want to use my skill sets for 26 years into something in the mental health field where I could be more of a consultant.
Well, then I think what's really important, Mabel, is that what you're always going to do is you're going to reframe your resume to be, because of your X amount of experience and skills in blank, you're going to pivot now and be able to share your consulting experience, or you want to look for something where you consult. So you're going to use that base that you did have, because remember, in order to consult, you're still going to consulting with some sort of knowledge that you're willing to share. So it's because of that long service and long history in the mental health field or in the health profession that enables you to feel that you are qualified to be able to consult. So that's how you're basically going to sell it in your resume. Your summary is going to be following, 20 plus years in the I am able to offer my services in the following area. And so you're going to use that kind of base that you had of work that you did previously to open up how you can bring that into your new career.
Okay, so that should also be part of the, you know how they have the objective part in your resume usually, or?
Yeah, objective or summary. Yes.
Right.
Remember, you're always going to make your resume for the role you want.
Right,
So that's how you're going to frame your summary, that following, 20 plus years in the, or you don't even have to give that number, because as I said, you want to always be careful about numbers in your resume so that people can't, and unfortunately, this is just the way things are, is that people can't tell an age. You want to say following a robust career in a very, or a long career in, I can bring my skills in blank, blank, and blank to, offering the ability to consult in the following areas. That's how you're going to present it. Because basically, that's how it's going to make you capable of consulting. You're
Right.
going to take that body of knowledge, and whether or not you've been doing it currently or not. I mean, it's a little bit like, riding a bicycle. We don't forget, it may not be as comfortable, and we may have some, pains in areas after we ride that bicycle after a long time, but it doesn't mean it goes away. So whether or not you've been doing it currently, you still have built up a body of work and a body of knowledge. So that's what's going to be your summary and your intro to, anybody who's reading your resume.
okay. Thank
Does
you.
that help a little bit there?
Yes.
Okay. And good luck to you. Really, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm
Well,
so
thank
glad we had questions.
Yeah. And thank you, Greg and Dime Community Bank. He sends a message for thank you, Brooklyn A, for hosting us. Please utilize their services and resources. Thank you to the wonderful panelists. Thank you, Dime Community Bank, Diane and Robin. Robin, awesome presentation. I appreciate you all working with us, and thank you, Daniela, for informing everyone about our domestic violence unit. And we look forward to future collaborations. And please use the info at bka.org if you have any questions, or if you would like to submit your application for your resume for review. With that, would anyone like to add anything before we go?
This was an honor. Thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure. All righty. Well, with that, we will end it. I will be sending you a link. I'll be sending all the attendees a link to this recording. And I will also make sure you get that link to the Indeed 101 so you can watch that video on your own time. And I will be in touch. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you,
everyone.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.